So prohormones are precursors to the synthesis of other hormones, and they're theorized to increase the body's ability to produce a given specific hormone. So a specific precursor of a hormone that has been utilized as a performance-enhancing substance is a precursor to the male sex hormone testosterone. You see some of the names here, including androstenedione, androstenediol, or abbreviated as DHEA, is another performance-enhancing substance that falls under these categories. Now, going back several years, almost 20 years ago now, androstenedione was the performance-enhancing substance that Mark McGuire admitted to using. Back then, it was not a banned substance, but I believe as of today it is. So there have not really been any well-controlled studies looking at changes in athletic performance when utilizing a prohormone. A few studies have shown that beneficial performance changes do not occur with prohormone use. However, there are still some adverse effects associated with prohormone use, particularly for those athletes who may be utilizing several performance-enhancing substances at once. Those side effects may be similar to those associated with anabolic steroid use. HCG, or human chorionic gonadotropin, is another commonly used performance-enhancing substance. Now, it is actually the pregnancy indicator used by over-the-counter pregnancy test. Some studies have shown that when HCG is injected into men, it can actually increase the production of testosterone by the testicles. Other studies have looked at HCG and its efficacy in terms of inducing weight loss, and those studies have shown that it is not effective. Again, not much here in terms of controlled scientific studies regarding the efficacy of HCG. What we have is some anecdotal evidence that it may be useful for males who take anabolic steroids, because anabolic steroid use is associated with suppression of endogenous testosterone production. HCG may also be used by those athletes who are finishing a cycle of anabolic steroids and are looking to activate their own endogenous testosterone production. Some of the adverse effects associated with HCG use, although there's little research on the side effects, with any injection, those side effects may include pain, swelling, or tenderness around the injection site. One hormone that we've all heard about is growth hormone, or human growth hormone, HGC, excuse me. Now, growth hormone is a very important hormone in the human body. It is secreted and released from the anterior pituitary gland in the brain, and it has numerous diverse effects on the tissues of the body. So not only does it help to stimulate bone and skeletal muscle growth, it also helps to maintain blood glucose levels by breaking down stored glycogen as well as adipose tissue. Through the breakdown of adipose tissue, it stimulates the release of free fatty acids from those adipose tissue cells, which can now be utilized as a fuel source by tissues of the body. As you see here, growth hormone also stimulates the liver to produce and secrete another hormone known as insulin-like growth factor IGF-1, which has very similar effects to growth hormone. So because of the growth-promoting properties of growth hormone, athletes have utilized this in order to enhance athletic performance. But in terms of the efficacy of HGH use, little research has been done with athletes due to a number of ethical issues. However, research has been done in elderly individuals, as well as children and adults with GH deficiencies, and in those studies, HGH use has been shown to improve lean body mass with decreases in body fat, so overall improvements in body composition. adverse effects associated with HGH use, particularly when HGH is used after puberty has occurred, includes a condition called acromegaly. This is characterized by a widening of the bones, arthritis in the joints, organ enlargement, and overall a number of metabolic abnormalities. So this is one of the drugs essentially that's been tied to Barry Bonds over the years, even though it's never been shown that he took this drug. There's a lot of kind of indirect evidence suggesting that perhaps he did. So just found this interesting cartoon here showing basically the enlargement of Barry Bonds' head over the years that is thought to be due to his use of HGH. Now, long-term abuse of HGH can also lead to a number of adverse effects, including diabetes, cardiovascular dysfunction, muscle, joint, and bone pain, hypertension, which may be a problem for individuals with underlying cardiac disease, abnormal growth of organs, and overall accelerated osteoarthritis, which may lead to basically joint pain and maybe eventually joint replacement. EPO, or erythropoietin, is a very common drug that's used by elite endurance athletes, particularly elite cyclists. It's a form of blood doping. So EPO was really made famous by Lance Armstrong, who admitted to utilizing EPO in addition to several other performance-enhancing substances. So a very interesting documentary that I've watched recently on Netflix is known as The Armstrong Lie, where he talks about the lengths that him and his team went to basically hide his use of performance-enhancing drugs. So definitely check that out. I highly recommend it. So EPO is a naturally occurring hormone. It's produced by the kidneys, and what it does, it stimulates the production of red blood cells from the bone marrow. Now, artificial injections of EPO are associated with increases in hemoglobin and hematocrit, and this is simply due to the greater red blood cell production by the body. Now, the red blood cells, specifically hemoglobin, are responsible for oxygen transport in the body. So by having a higher number of red blood cells and thus higher hemoglobin concentration, the thought is here this is going to improve oxygen transport to the muscles, therefore improving measures such as maximal aerobic capacity and time to exhaustion. There are some serious health risks associated with EPO use, including the increased risk of blood clotting. This is because basically the blood is more viscous or thick now as a result of EPO use. This may result in fatal consequences such as stroke, pulmonary embolism. Less serious may be elevations in systolic blood pressure, a compromised thermoregulatory system, which may be an issue for individuals exercising in the heat, and also some evidence that EPO use results in dehydration during long-distance aerobic endurance events such as cycling. So many of you have probably heard of stories of elite cyclists that have died from EPO use, and we see that commonly occurs, particularly at the elite level. Another class of hormone-like performance-enhancing substances are known as beta-adrenergic agonists. These are synthetic substances that are chemically related to the hormone epinephrine, which is a stimulatory hormone. A common beta-adrenergic agonist is known as clenbuterol, which is a bronchodilator. So if you have asthma or know someone who has asthma, you may have heard of this before. But it's actually used by athletes who do not have asthma as an ergogenic aid thought to increase lean mass and decrease subcutaneous fat. Now, there have been limited human studies looking at beta-adrenergic agonists used, but some of those have indicated an ergogenic potential or an improvement in performance, particularly in regards to muscular strength. Now, because this is not widespread and there have really been no well-controlled studies looking at the adverse effects of beta adrenergic agonists, we do have scarce data. But some of the anecdotal adverse effects include tachycardia, which is an elevated heart rate, hyperthermia, an elevated core body temperature, tremors, dizziness, and palpitations of the heart. Beta blockers block beta adrenergic receptors. That's where their name comes from. So what they do by blocking the beta adrenergic receptors is that they prevent catecholamines from binding to these receptors. The catecholamines include epinephrine and norepinephrine, which are both stimulatory hormones. Beta blockers are generally prescribed to CVD patients, those with underlying cardiovascular disease, in order to decrease the workload that's placed upon the heart. However, athletes are starting to use beta blockers, particularly those athletes who need a steady hand in order to perform in their sport or event. So athletes looking to reduce their anxiety and tremors during performance, for example, archers and shooters, as you see in the picture here, they may choose to use beta blockers to enhance their performance, to steady their hand, for example. Studies have shown, though, that beta blockers may actually have an ergolytic effect. So this is opposite of ergogenic. An ergolytic effect means that it may reduce performance. So studies have shown that beta blocker use decreases maximum heart rate, oxygen consumption, race time performance, and overall may increase rating of perceived exertion, making the exercise, at least to be perceived, more difficult than it actually is. Other adverse effects of beta blocker use include bronchospasm, hypoglycemia, and in very severe cases, heart failure may occur. So overall, to finish up here, I wanted to share with you here, this is from the World Anti-Doping Agency in 2014. This is their prohibited substances list with possible mechanisms of action. And you can see here on the left side, I highlighted in red the various performance-enhancing substances that we talked about, including anabolic steroids, peptide hormones, including HGH. Insulin we did not talk about, but that would be another performance-enhancing substance that may be utilized and falls under the category of peptide hormones. Talked about the beta receptor agonist, which may be utilized by certain athletes. The use of EPO would fall under blood doping. And then we spent a little bit of time talking about stimulants, specifically caffeine, but also energy drinks would fall under the stimulant category. And then down at the bottom you see that some athletes may utilize beta blockers to improve their performance. But overall you see here just the vast variety of the mechanisms of action of these specific performance-enhancing substances listed over here on your left. So some of those are going to influence heart rate, blood flow, circulation, which obviously can increase aerobic endurance performance. Some of them are going to act on the muscle, increasing muscle mass and muscular strength, whereas others may work on the central nervous system, basically increasing alertness and attention and concentration. So overall, what we talked about here, again, a variety of performance-enhancing substances that are used by athletes with the hope to increase or enhance their athletic performance. So if you do have any questions once you review these videos, please let me know. We could talk about those after class tomorrow. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in class on Thursday.